And we also had today the order that was challenged. The gag order was challenged by social media companies like News Nation and a couple of really big companies that were asking for the judge to uplift this gag order. And also the attorney, Shannon Gray, for the Gonzalez family, he was in on that filing. And today, Brian Enton, I'm going to put that up on the screen. Brian Enton posts the summary statement. So I'm going to share this, and I'm sorry if I'm breaking up your continuity here.
That's okay.
But this was something I wanted to get out in the beginning. And first, I want to say, Peggy Gallagher, thank you for the $50 super chat. That was very generous of you. It was in the middle of a thought, and Melanie was talking, so I wanted to wait until there was a little break. But Peggy, thank you for your generosity. It helps pay the bills here, so I appreciate that. So I'm not sure how well everybody could see this. I'm going to do my best to try to. Oh yeah, I can't. I actually can't make it bigger.
I can read
so
it.
This is from Twitter, but basically it's it's just a ruling. Associated Press versus the Second Judicial District, docket number 50482. And Melanie, can you read that for me?
Would you like me to read it in its entirety?
Just the first.
Sure. The Idaho Supreme Court has issued a unanimous opinion, 5-0, dismissing an original jurisdiction action brought by a coalition of media companies, also known as the petitioners, seeking to vacate a non-dissemination order, or gag order, in the pending criminal action of State of Idaho v. Bryan Kohberger, a high-profile murder trial that has drawn worldwide publicity.
So it goes on, and you guys can all read it. I don't want to, I don't say waste time here, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, because it basically says that, they want a fair and impartial jury pool to be able to be selected. They want to be able to give Bryan Kohberger and the prosecution a fair shake. So in order to give them a fair shake, the judge who rules 5-0? How does that go, Melanie? Can you explain that to us?
That's a unanimous decision. There were 5 judges involved in this decision, and they all agreed, which doesn't happen all the time, but they felt very strongly about it, that the gag order, keeping the gag order in place, outweighed the public's right to know things that are covered by the gag order. And I think we've seen that because so much misinformation has spread by, people being doxxed in the beginning of this investigation by, YouTubers and journalists and other people, and their lives have been, destroyed.
Yeah. People's homes, people going to their homes, going to their places of business. Just the wild and craziness is what draws the judges in a lot of cases. Not just this one, we see it on our boys in California City, in Kern County, Bakersfield, California. The judge there has just let us listen to audio when the court is live. And why did she do that? Why did they do that? Well, he did that because of all the buffoonery that led up to the arrests of Trezell and Jacqueline West. People getting arrested for trespassing at the crime scene or at the potential crime scene, people breaking windows, fighting neighbors to get security camera footage, all kinds of infighting. And that was covered by the media. I remember 23 ABC covering this jagaloon behavior. These people are just grown adults fighting to get a story out on YouTube. It's just crazy. And in this case, it's no different. You got a bunch of people and a bunch of reporters that want to talk about sources and false narratives and creating their own stories, Reddit groups, TikTokers getting arrested. I mean, I could go on and on about this, Melanie, and it is buffoonery, jagaloonish, whatever you want to call it. And that's what leads up to us being left out in the dark and not knowing about this stuff. Because if everything went somewhat normal, I think that there would be maybe more of an open line of communication or flow of information. Now, they're not going to give you everything. They can't. They're not going to expose everything. But I think there would be a little bit more. But unfortunately, because of the actions of others, this is what happens.
Right.
Let
And
me get
that's why I felt strongly when I spoke to you today about doing this show, that I felt very strongly that we did not name her. Everyone is naming her. I don't see what the benefit of naming her is. We don't need to make this girl's life any more uncomfortable than it already is. She's in a situation that she did not put herself in voluntarily, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Hey,
need to be
listen,
harassed.
I subscribe to that because I've been up close and personal with victims and their families. I've been to scenes where multiple people have been murdered, by different various methods, and it's not a fun process. And if you are a witness or if you're in the same location where these violent crimes happen, it's traumatizing. And for anybody to really try to talk about it and say, well, is he or she acting like this? It's really unfair because nobody but the people, and these are victims after these crimes are committed, they're left to live a lifetime. And I think I said it to Bill today, and I'll say it again. I'd say it to you if we were speaking. These folks are going to probably lead a long life of having to have therapy and so forth to just help them get through this horrific crime that they were in a home for, and regardless of whether they slept through it, whether they were awake or they were in shock or frozen. 8 hours is a long period of time, but who are we to judge that time? And I'll never point my finger at anybody for any of their actions until I hear, when this trial kicks off, we're going to be hearing a lot more, just like what's happening with Lori Vallow. We're hearing about a lot of different things that we never heard about. The Letitia Stout case, we're hearing a lot about the craziness that she did and what she tried to withhold and how she did this and how she did that. But up until this point, years went by and we didn't know anything about this. And when you hear about it, it's kind of like ooh and ah moment. And I anticipate that in the Bryan Kohberger trial, when it does commence, that there's going to be a lot of humble pie to be eaten all by a lot of people, and maybe even including myself. Southwest 4x4 says if, and in parentheses, and only if she had a relationship with Bryan Kohberger, could that affect his defense?
Well, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here for a second. And I'm not saying this has anything to do with anything, or she even knew him or had a relationship, but even if she says, I was with him the entire time during the course of these events, he was with me, we were somewhere else, and therefore he could not have done it, that is still evidence that needs to be weighed by a jury. That is it would be an alibi that could be tossed out by the finder of fact, and the finder of fact is the jury in this case.
That's powerful because a lot of people were talking about that today, and it's funny that you made that example.
They would have to assess her credibility. That's what juries do. That's why they're there. That's why we have this system, because they're there to assess the credibility and decide who's telling the truth and to decide what happened. And they're not always right.
Tom Cusinelli, one of our good friends from the job, from the NYPD, he says, agreed. And Mrs. JMD says, great point. Kel is saying, exactly. Thank you, Melanie. Joey Brooklyn. Oh, hey, Joey. He says, great point. Yeah, so listen, we like to play, again, we need to speak about both sides of this thing. And then we've been hearing a lot of people have been chiming in, and a lot of different lawyers are going to speak on it. I'm sure Emily D. Baker is going to chime in on this. We already heard from, several different attorneys and some that I don't even know of that have been speaking about this. And this conversation will continue in the days to come. So yeah, it is what it is. They're not always right, says Coffee Cake. Touche. They're not always right. Yeah. I mean, listen, until everything, all the facts unfold, this is now, again, people are going to speculate. They're going to, come up with their own conclusions and so forth. But be that as it may, we will, once June 26th comes, I think we'll have a little bit of a clearer picture here. But it's not the start of a trial, people here. Here's another comment. I can't wait till June 26th. Melanie, I'm going to put you on the spot, which I hate to do because you get me so mad at me sometimes. what do you anticipate June 26th in the
That's when the preliminary hearing is going to start. So, and it's going to go on for a couple of days because I think in this subpoena, they did not even ask for BF to appear until June 28th. So this could go on for 5 days,
yes,
and
so
the
26,
prosecution's going
yeah.
to
So
put
they
their
said,
evidence out there, and then a judge will decide whether there's enough evidence for him to stand trial.
yeah. So that's the thing. It's good. It's going to start the 26th, and they slated 5 days, and like you said, they asked her for the 28th. So,
Mhm.
yeah, interesting.